Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my humble pranams at Swami's divine lotus feet. Let us start today's session with Omkaram and Sai Gayatri. Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Welcome to today's session of Pran Sakha Sai. It's my privilege to introduce our today's speaker, Sister Sutopa Sen. Born and brought up in London, Sister came to Swami's fold at the young age of 14. She joined Anantapur campus in June 1885 for her intermediate in arts. She further went on to pursue her BA in 1990 and MA English in 1992 from Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Anantapur campus. During these 7 years, as a student and further as an alumni, she was blessed with several chances to interact with Swami. In 1996, on the occasion of Christmas in Prashanti Nilayam, she had the wonderful opportunity to speak in Swami's divine physical presence. Sister Sutopa served as the Region 3 Ladies Coordinator for the Sri Sathya Sai Service Organization, UK from 2010 to 2014. She worked in various private and public sector organizations in London, further completing her MA Business Operations and Resource Management with Middlesex University in 2007. She also became a chartered member of Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development in 2014. Currently, she works as the group head of anti-discrimination at the Royal Free London NHS Foundation Trust in London, UK, focusing on anti-racism and equity within the UK National Health Service and beyond. Sister continues to deliver talks and share profound teachings of Swami and also her divine experiences with him. Join me in once again welcoming Sister Sutopa for this session. Over to you, Sister.
Thank you so much. I offer myself at the lotus feet of our beloved Swami. Dearest sisters, Sai Ram to all of you. And seeing some of your names on the screen, I just got so excited because some of you I haven't seen for a very long time. So thank you so much for inviting me to speak here. It's just been an opportunity for me to remember some of those things that I myself had forgotten. And so for the next hour, permit me to take a trip down memory lane and indulge myself, and I hope that it'll awaken a few memories for all of you too. I'm not going to use any visual aids. I'm just going to speak. I hope that's okay for you, but I have tried to break up my talk into some sections, so hopefully it will make sense. So I decided to work chronologically because that's the logical thing to do, to start at the beginning of my journey with Swami. So as our dear sister said, I was 14 years old when I first heard the word Sai Baba from my father's mouth. It was the discussion we were having on a Sunday morning when he said to us, "You know, God is in human form. I have a photograph of him." And I was so surprised because we had never ever heard our father speak about God before. He had a socialist mindset. All our lives we had heard him wanting to help humanity. He felt genuine pain when others were in pain, but he never actually spoke about God. I was so surprised because until then, for me, God had been something that we look up into the sky and see, something that some entity that we pray to, that we have conversations in our head, but I never ever thought of him as somebody that's living, breathing in a human form. That's when he showed me a picture of Swami, and he said that somebody at work had given him that photograph and said, "This is a God man. Put him somewhere where you can see him at least once a day." Now, after that, my father read Man of Miracles by Howard Murfitt, and quickly I had devoured it too, and so had my brothers. I was catapulted into a different world. I was at an age where I was slightly disillusioned, I was lost, I was going through the early adolescent years and feeling unconnected, disconnected to everything and everyone. And suddenly there was something like a source of love that I was feeling drawn to. Within 6 months, we made our way to Puttaparthi, and it was the first trip for me to India. And I still remember seeing Prashanthi Nilayam for the first time. I genuinely felt as if I was on another planet. And it seemed to me like a desert. Sand everywhere, so hot. There were bullock carts walking around. There were flies and mosquitoes. It was just a strange new world. When we arrived in Prashanthi Nilayam, they told us very quickly that Swami had gone to Vrindavan. So we stayed one night in Pran Sakha Sai, and during that time, my mother went to the canteen, the Indian canteen as we know it now, but in those days it was just the canteen. There was only one canteen. And she had a conversation with one of our ex-students. I still don't know who she is. And essentially, my mother asked this girl, "What are you doing here?" The girl said, I am one of Swami's students. And that's when my mother came to know that there was a ladies' college, a college for women that Swami had. So she came back excitedly to the room and she said, "You know, Baba has a college for women, you should go there." Well, you can imagine how this landed with me. I mean, we had only just landed in India. I was covered in mosquito bites. I was missing home. I was excited to see Swami, but it was all just a bit too much to suggest that I should move here permanently. So the next day we made our way to Vrindavan on the bus. We got some accommodation. Honestly, the first night, it was so difficult to get accommodation that we actually stayed in something that resembled a cow shed. There was a room attached where we stayed, and there was actually a very big animal outside, which we had to cross to get to the bathroom. And I still remember the horns sticking out, and I couldn't actually go to the bathroom without someone going with me. Thankfully, that was just for one night before we got another room. But those were the kind of things that we were used to in those days when Swami was in his physical form, because it was all just a different time altogether. And also, when you're young, I feel you can just brave all of these things without a second thought. So there were two other things that happened that were significant on that trip. The first thing was that a few days later in Vrindavan, in the afternoon, everybody said Swami is going to go to the auditorium to give a talk to the students. So all the devotees were making their way there. There was no afternoon darshan. Swami was going to be in the auditorium. So myself and my parents and my younger brother, we also made our way up the road to the boys' college auditorium. And we were waiting around the side, the ladies' side, and my father and my brother were waiting around the men's side, waiting for Swami. And after half an hour of sitting around waiting, there was a big flurry of excitement, and Swami's car arrived. And I said to my mother, "You wait here, I'm going to go and have Swami's darshan." So she said, "Okay, fine." So I ran to the front of the auditorium, and Swami's car arrived, and Swami alighted, and at a distance, we got some darshan. Swami went inside. So I made my way back round to the side, and I couldn't find my mother. My mother had disappeared. All the crowds were there. Everybody was very excited because by now Swami had entered into the auditorium. The Sevadal were shouting because they were saying only the parents of students can go inside the auditorium, no one else. So all the devotees were outside. It was only the parents that could go in. And I wandered around, and you can imagine I was still a little bit, I'd only been in India for a few days. It was still a new environment. I'd lost my mother. I didn't know what to do. I was feeling a bit tearful, but I controlled myself. And after some time, the speech started. I thought, let me just sit down, because what else to do? So I sat on a mat there with my back against a wall, and I sat there for nearly 2 hours, genuinely wondering where my mother had gone. Finally, the aarti finished and Swami left, and all I knew was everyone started to pile out of the auditorium. And my mother appeared with a big grin across her face. She rushed towards me and she gave me a big hug. And I was so upset with her. I said, "Where did you go? You left me. You just left me here." She said, "No, I'm so sorry. You know what happened? I was standing here and praying to Swami that you should join his college. And I was saying, Swami, my daughter, I have a daughter, and I want her to join your college. I want her to become a Sai student. And I'm a parent, but I'm not a parent of a Sai student. I want to become a parent of a Sai student." So apparently she was really praying intensely and feeling like she just wanted to be inside that auditorium. And all of a sudden, a Sevadol just called her and said, "You," and just grabbed her and pushed her inside. She said, "Before I knew what was happening, I was inside the auditorium and there was space on the steps and she sat there." Apparently, she was absolutely level with the stage because, the auditorium is raised. And she said, "I was like directly in the line of Swami's vision. And Swami was talking about how the parents should be with their students. And I was right there. And every time he was looking at me, I was folding my hands. And need I say more? She was just overjoyed. Well, what I didn't realize then was that Swami was preparing my mother to make maybe one of the biggest sacrifices of her life until then, which was to put me in Anantapur, because obviously till then we had just stayed as a nuclear family. We were all very attached to each other. But in the months that came, things started to take shape. So that was one thing that happened to my mother on that trip. The second thing that was very significant on that trip was that she told me that I have to ask Swami whether I should become his student. And I was still slightly under protest at this point. And I said, "Well, I don't know. You really want me to leave England and come here?" And she was like, yes, you should write to Swami and ask him. Let him decide. So I wrote to Swami, and I was carrying this letter around with me for 2 weeks because by that time we had come back to Prashantiniliam. And those days, I think some of you will remember the token lines, and we used to take a token to go for darshan. And I was going along with this, and I was taking a token, and every day we were getting line 17, 18, 19, 16. We didn't get near Swami at all. So this letter was getting tattier and dirtier and tattier and dirtier, and I was just carrying it around with me. And finally, the day came as we were due to go back the next morning. And my mother had made a friend, a North Indian lady, very lovely lady. And she only used to speak Hindi to my mother, but we understood. And she said, "Okay, this is your last darshan. You take tokens and I'll take a token. And whoever gets a good token, if you get it, fine, let your daughter sit in front. And if I get a good token, I'll give you my place because I'm going to be here." So I didn't really know what all that was about, but I sat down for darshan. I was right at the back as usual. And then the next thing I knew, I saw her. She had got line number 2. And she was beckoning me, and my mother was prodding me to get up. And those of you that know me will know I am not good in those situations. I'm very slow to react. And I couldn't get up. And I was like, no, I'm going to stay. No, I don't want to go. And of course, I got a big shove to get up. And then I had to climb over all of these people to get to the front. Anyway, I was there in front, and it was almost like the first row because we were right squashed up. Needless to say, the rest is history. Swami came gliding along. It was the first proper full darshan I'd ever had. And for me, my memory of it is slow motion. So actually, obviously, it was in real time. But my memory of it was that he was just in slow motion, as if the whole thing had been slowed down. He glid and he came towards me. And he didn't see me at first. He was just gazing. And then he came to me And my letter was sticking out between my fingers like this, not even really very much. It was just here. And he looked at me and he stared and stared and stared into my face. He leaned in, his hand came up. He started to move towards the letter. I raised it up. He took it. He stared and stared and then he walked away. And in that moment, my fate was sealed with him. Although maybe I didn't even realize it, but in that moment, everything was sealed. The future was sealed because I still had some way to go before I actually said, yes, I want to go to Anantapur. But I knew then that I was on the bus and the bus was going in a direction. So I came back to England. And after coming back to England, I mean, Swami says, I can turn you 360 degrees. And that's what he did for me. I mean, maybe he didn't need to turn me full 360 because maybe I was just turning a little bit already. But he brought me full way round. Like within an instant, I left Puttaparthi, that trip, thinking I just wanted to come back. So I got home and all I was reading was Sathya Sai speaks, Sathya Sai speaks, and not even all the discourses. I was reading only the ones to the Anantapur students. So I used to flick through all the speeches and look at the end, like where was it delivered? Anantapur? Yeah, I'm reading that one. Puttaparthi? No, not interested. No. Anantapur? Yeah, I'll read that one. So I was only reading the speeches that Swami had delivered to the Anantapur girls. I was so my heart was so set. It was so set on being a student. And my prayer to Swami at that time, I still remember, it was so intense that I actually used to pray to Swami that, Swami, if you make me a student, I will never ever want anything ever again. I just want to be your student. I don't want to be anything else. That's it for me. That's enough. I can now say that I think that was the right prayer. If I can think of one thing that I fully identify with in my life, after being a daughter and a sister, it is very much being a Sai student. So anyway, after the letter was taken, my father was a very resourceful man. He was a very confident man. He started writing to the principal, negotiating my seat there. I mean, I don't even remember the details because my results came out after my classmates. I think some of my classmates may remember that I think the results come out in June or May in India, and ours come out in August. So I essentially was traveling. 1985 June, I was on the plane going to India with my suitcases packed for a whole year. And actually, I only had a provisional seat. I had said goodbye to all my friends. And as far as I was concerned, I was going to stay in India. I wanted to be a Sai student. And Swami did fulfill that wish, which I'm eternally grateful for. But the two things also that happened in my settling in period, I mean, all of you would have settled into the Swami's hostel. You know that initially it is a little bit of an adjustment. So I also had all of those adjustments to go through as well. And I remember two things significantly when I started in the hostel. Apart from my loving roommates and my classmates who sort of looked after me and settled me and helped me, explained things to me, they were invaluable to me in so many ways. But today I'm going to focus on the physical aspects of Swami because I think that's, it's the darshan, the sampashan and the sparshan, those things. I'm just going to focus on those. So the two things I'm going to share with you in that settling in period in the hostel was firstly, it was a Saturday. I think I'd been in the hostel for about a week. And that day was a Saturday afternoon. And I do distinctly recall having had enough, basically. Oh, that day, I was so close to tears that afternoon because I was sitting in the Sanskrit class. I was in intermediate, and you may know that you have to choose a second language, and English is not one of them. So I had chosen Sanskrit, and I was sitting in a class with a Sanskrit teacher who was absolutely adorable, but she didn't speak English. So she was speaking Telugu, and the majority of the class were Telugu-speaking day scholars, and I was still making that adjustment. It was a tough day already, and I was sitting in that class just feeling completely lost and very, very homesick that afternoon. And I was close to tears, and I just said, Swami, I think I want to go home. I'm just homesick. I want my mother. And at that moment, sisters, I kid you not, this is the timing of Swami. At that moment, the door opened and a college clerk came in. And they used to come in with messages, you remember all day, all the time there'd be messages for the teacher. But what I was surprised at is I've never known a college clerk to come in. And the message she gave the Sanskrit teacher was, those girls who have got their parents in Parthi can go to Parthi this evening for the Sunday. Like, I still to this day, I don't know why that the college clerk had to come into the middle of the class and interrupt to give this message. But anyway, I guess we needed some advance warning. But all I can say is, well, I just couldn't believe it. And my Sanskrit teacher, she was so sweet. Like, she looked at me and she said, your parents are in Puttaparthi. I said, yes, 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 they are. She said, you can go. You can go this evening. You can go on the bus. So you can imagine, like, I couldn't have I mean, Swami always knows what we need more than we need ourselves. So that was it. Like, he just knew what to do. The next thing I knew, I was on the bus with an overnight bag going to Parthi. I was just absolutely, my heart was singing. I think all I needed to do was see my mother and my divine mother, both of them. So got to the evening darshan. We were allowed in the bhajan hall. I felt the relief, the homesickness just faded away. I felt refreshed. I felt happy again. The next morning we came for darshan, and there was 2 rows of teachers and just a few of us students. Like, I think maybe 4 or 5 of us students were there. And Swami came out. It was a Sunday. Swami was in a very chatty mood, and I remember the primary school was sitting there as well. And Swami came out, and he, at some point during the darshan and the bhajan, like, he came to give the normal darshan, and he was like, you had breakfast, and he was asking all of those questions. And of course, I was in the 3rd row, like, sitting looking at him, feeling absolutely ecstatic. And after that, he came out before bhajan, and he had a boy with him, and he had these blouse pieces, pieces of his robe. Now, you can imagine, I've just joined Anantapur. Like, a year ago, I didn't even know if I had a seat. And here I am, like, in Prashantanilayam, face to face with him. I've become a student. And then he's coming out with, like, robes. I thought they were robes. I mean, they were actually robe pieces, but they looked like robes. I didn't even know what was going on. And Swami, like, because it wasn't as if he made us sit in lines and gave us the robes. No, he was just talking. And then he started to just toss them, like, informally toss them to the teachers. So he was, like, walking along the darshan line and tossing them. They were taking namaskar. And then the girls in the 2nd and 3rd row, they started kneeling up and going, Swami, Swami, we want Swami. So I was just going along with it, but not really saying anything. My hands were folded. And before long, all of us had had a robe piece except for myself and one other girl. And we were just, like, folded hands, just looking. And Swami was checking to see whether everyone had a robe piece. And Salila Madam, I think many of you will remember Salila Madam. So she was teaching us English. So she was, I already knew her from our classes. And she was next to me, and she saw that I didn't have one. And she said, go forward, go forward. So she started to push me. So I was, like, being shuffled forward. And Swami then saw me. My hands were folded. I was looking at him. And then she got so nervous that, and in a good, with the love, she just didn't want me to miss it. So she said to me, open your hands, child, open your hands. And she said it really loudly. And Swami was right in front of me. And he looked at her and he said, hey. And she just, oh, Swami, sorry, Swami. And then he looked at me and his expression completely changed, to one of, like, softness. And then he just tossed the robe into my hands. By that time I had opened them, and I then learned what you do, the protocol. You fold your hands for darshan, but when God is giving, you open your hands. So I learned the second protocol with Swami: open your hands when you're receiving, otherwise, what are you doing? So, but the beautiful memory of that moment was not only the fact that Swami, before he gave us those, he explained, he said, like, the girls were going, Swami, robe, we want your full robe, Swami. He said, no, not robe, pieces. And then he was so sweetly, he would say, why do you want a full robe? What will you do with a full robe? You will put it in your altar and you will pray to it. He said, this is a piece. Swami's giving you a piece so you can stitch it into a blouse, you can wear it. And he did like this. He said, you wear it, it'll be more close, more close to you. Keep Swami more close. So I remembered watching him describe all of that. You know, the ultimate salesman, you know, he was sort of selling it to us as if he needed to sell anything to us. We would have just taken anything at that point. Anything Swami gives is a blessing. But the beauty and also, of course, the sweetness with which he sort of did that sort of mock rebuking, like, hey, you know, and then, you know, as if like she doesn't know. But of course, we all know we only get that one chance with Swami to not know something. The second time, you know. But the first time always is beautiful when you don't know and Swami's there fighting your corner. So that was a beautiful memory. And the second thing in the settling in period, which was really, really pivotal for me, was so I went back. Obviously, I had this blouse piece that's still with me. I mean, and it's a very precious thing for me. The memory itself is very precious. But the second thing that was a precious memory in that period was when I went back to the college. It was a few weeks later, and I was sitting in class one day talking to one of my classmates, and I was saying to her, Swami doesn't even know I'm here. I mean, the moany state I was in. I think I was having another bad day. And I was just saying, Swami, I've come all the way and I don't even know if I'm going to stay here. For all I know, I'm going to get sent back. And I was just having a bit of a moan fest, self-pity. And my friend, my classmate, she was listening and saying, don't worry, I'm so sure Swami knows you're here. And something will happen, something good will happen. I said, no, my results are not out. I may end up going back to England. Can you imagine? Anyway, so that conversation was over. The bell rang for lunch and we made our way back to the hostel. And basically when I got to the hostel, my parents were there. I mean, it was the middle of the week. So these little things, out of the ordinary, these are the ones you remember. I mean, who gets visitors in the middle of the week? No one. It's always the Sunday that's the visitors' day. That was what the rule was. So, but my parents had come because they were leaving to go to England, and Gemma Madam had allowed, I think Pushpa Madam, one of them had said, yes, okay. They were very sweet and they were, like concerned that I should be settled and feel settled. So I went into the visitors' hall and my mother was just sitting there, ear to ear, her smile. She was like, you don't know what happened. And I said, what happened? But she said, we got an interview this morning. So the thing is, we were new devotees, as I have described to you. So we didn't get a family interview, but they had joined a group, a UK group, and Swami had called the group. So Swami had called the group, and the ladies had been called into a little interview with Swami. And the point here is that my mother, ever since she had left me, had been distraught. That's the truth of it. In those 2 weeks that she had left me, she had been in Puttaparthi. She was missing me. She was worried. She was all of those things that, mothers are when they're leaving their daughters for the first time. So apparently she said to me that I was sitting in this interview with Swami and there were only about 10 of us. And I was praying and praying, saying, Swami, my daughter's with you. Swami, I'm leaving my daughter with you. But she wasn't saying it because, we don't have the guts to just be boldly talking to Swami. She was just saying in her mind, Swami, she's with you, but you need to look after her. You need to tell me. You need to show me. You need to tell me, Swami, that you're going to look after her because I'm in pain. So she prayed and prayed all through the interview, and Swami was giving such lovely spiritual discourses, how to be confident, faith in God. God is above you, below you, beside you, underneath you. God is always with you. She was talking all these things. And inside she just had one prayer, Swami, but you need to tell me, Swami, but you need to tell me. So this went on, and then finally the interview finished. Swami got up. Whenever Swami gets up, everything's over. So Swami got up. So the interview's over. So everybody got up. And my mother said my heart sank because she had not got the chance to tell Swami anything or for him to ask anything. And then he was giving namaskar, and then he apparently came and stood before her. And he said, take namaskar. So she took namaskar. And then as she lifted her head, she just looked at him and he said, I'm going to look after your daughter. Don't worry. And apparently he was smiling ear to ear, like a big smile. So, I mean, what more? I mean, that to me was a miracle. It was like a complete miracle because, on the physical level, Swami didn't know me. Obviously, omnisciently, Swami knows everything. But what more proof do you want? In English, he came physically to my mother and told her, I'm going to look after your daughter, don't worry. So that was a huge missing piece of the jigsaw of the early stages of my stay in Anantapur. I mean, after that, I really think I was set. I was embracing hostel life and I was loving every minute of it. So the next chapter for me now is going into the college visits that Swami made to Anantapur. So junior into, senior into, first year and second year. I remember up to 4 years. Forgive me if any of the details I'm remembering I'm getting wrong. Some of you may remember better because I always am very conscious my memory isn't great. But this is what I remember. So each of the things I'm going to relate, there are three of them. Each visit of Swami's to the hostel, I learned something quite big. So the first visit of Swami's was the first very visit I experienced, which was as a junior intern. And during that time, I remember I was in a dance drama. So I wasn't dancing, I was in the singing backing group. And I remember being in the backing group and doing going for lots of rehearsals with Thelma Madam. And what I do remember is when we finally performed that, I mean, I think all of you know when Swami comes to the hostel, those of you who have experienced it will remember what it was like. It was extremely exciting, and we used to clean the place from top to bottom, and we used to pray, 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 and there was not a single inch of the campus that was not cleaned, and everybody was happily, happily, happily busy, involved in all sorts of things, and there'd be lots of announcements the night before. There would be rehearsals. There would be some girls inside the dining halls, and we were outside on the junior inter trip. I remember there was a welcome song, and there was a college program. So this dance drama was part of the college program. And what I remember was that Swami came on the stage after the drama was finished. So most of the girls in the dance were actually day scholars, as I remember, and they were overjoyed with Swami. Swami was happy with them. And there was a bit of a sort of, it was a bit spontaneous, shall we say. I think that's the diplomatic way of saying it. It was a spontaneous scrabble for Swami's feet. And of course, I was also in there amongst everyone. I mean, I was also watching, oh, okay, like I have to join in as well. So I also joined in. And all I remember is searching for Swami's feet with my head. And as my forehead touched Swami's feet, something happened, because basically what I felt was this. So basically, Swami's feet like knocked. So I felt as if he jumped, as if he pulled back. That's how it felt to me. And I got such a shock of my life, because I felt really embarrassed. I was so horrified and I was so ashamed. And I looked up at Swami immediately, feeling so guilty. Swami, I know I've been indisciplined, haven't I? I looked up at him and he was just smiling, but he wasn't looking at me, he was smiling at everyone else. And no sign of any kind of as if nothing, butter wouldn't melt. Swami was so happy with everyone else. And the girls were continuing to kind of take namaskar in that spontaneous fashion. It was me that was in the doghouse. And of course, I learned a very important lesson that day, which is that, we have each our own way of interacting with Swami, and it has to be in keeping with our nature. And truthfully, I was just copying. I was just following what everybody was doing without really engaging my mind and my brain. And what Swami was showing me is this is not you. You are not you need to wait patiently. You need to be. So many years later, after that, I learned how to take namaskar, only to take namaskar when Swami offered. And, that happened many times after that. And I never ever made that mistake again. But it was a big lesson for me to be true to yourself. And he was teaching me how to not just follow people. In my early time in Anantapur in India, because I just didn't know the protocols, I used to just blindly follow everyone. But slowly I stopped doing that and I started to sort of think about my relationship with Swami, even on a physical level. He had certain expectations of me and he taught them to me in a way that used to be hurtful at first. I used to be through pain and then I used to go through joy. I think we've heard many students relate the same thing, the boys especially, and many sisters also have said the same thing. So that was my first experience of Swami coming to the college. The next college visit that sticks out in my mind was in my first year. So as we may recall, some of us, Swami used to come and give prizes, when he used to come to the college. which was beautiful. And of course, what that used to do is create a flurry of activity. All the girls would be entering in all the competitions because everybody wanted a prize, and then they could go and get something from Swami. It was like a true motivation, to enter any competition you were good at. But in my first year, I never really went for, I mean, the only thing I thought I could possibly go for was essay writing. And when I did turn up for the essay writing on the first time, I saw the topics were way beyond me, in that they were all like factual essays about India. And I realized I would never stand a chance of winning anything because my knowledge was just not there. So I stood back from essay writing and I left it there. But then one day after college, we were having tea in the dining hall, and a girl came up to me. One of our, I think she was a second year. She came up. She said, "Sutopa, do you play basketball?" And I said, "No, I don't play basketball." So she said, "Oh, come on, yeah, come on. We really need someone. We've got someone has dropped out of the team. We have a match after tea now. Before Bhajan, we have a match. Come, yeah, yeah. You can play. No, you know basics. You can." I said, "I never played basketball. I played netball. I used to play netball at school, not basketball." They said, "Yeah, yeah, it's the same thing. Fine, right? Be on the be on the field at 4:30." So I thought, okay, fine. What can go wrong? So I just put my silver kameez on. I went to the field, and there was five-a-side, and it was a match. They put me in a defense position. And honestly, like you will all know that defense is not difficult. You don't need a lot of skill. The one thing I do know about defense, like even in netball, I do remember like just tagging your partner and just not leaving them, obstructing, body blocking, and all of that. So that's all I did. I just made a thorough nuisance of myself with my partner on the pitch. And as a result of that, I think my tenacity paid off because she couldn't score and they didn't score and we scored and we won the match. So as a result, the girl who asked me, I don't remember who it was now, but she was so happy with me. She said, "Oh, but because of you, you played brilliantly, blah, blah, blah." I just found it so funny because I've never been sporty, but I said, "Oh, okay." Like if you thought that was, I was happy they were happy with me, but I didn't really, I knew I just kind of like moved around the pitches. I think defense is very easy. Um, so anyway, look, cut a long story short, we won the tournament because after that, we didn't win. We came as runners up, sorry. So we didn't win that tournament. We were runners up. So then the day came for Swami to come and give prizes. And of course, they asked me to collect the prize because I had sort of been the one that had stood in on that match, which was apparently like the turning point. So I was lucky enough to go up on the stage, and the lasting memory of that particular experience, of course, like many times we have come close to Swami, we look at him, he looks at us. That particular occasion, we take the namaskar and come back with a box, and it was a box with a bow. It was just the thought of like queuing up in the wings of the college auditorium and waiting to go. The whole thing was just beautiful from start to finish, and I have a photograph as well. But the learning lesson for me was that when I opened the box, there were 5 soap boxes, soap containers, plastic ones, and they were different colors, and there were 5 soap boxes for 5 of us, and there was a blue one, yellow one, different colors, and they said to me, "You take the color you want, and then give the rest to us." So I picked a blue one because blue was always my favorite color, and when I turned it over, it had ingrained in the bottom, in the plastic, it had the letters Sati, Sati. So I was curious because it came from Swami's hands, and I was always trying to find meaning and everything. And I said, "Sati, Sati, what does that mean?" So I went back to my roommates and I said, "It says Sati. What does Sati mean?" So my roommates were explaining to me that there's a very unfortunate tradition, where widows are expected to like throw themselves on the funeral pyre for their husband. So that was a bit disturbing, but I think what I got from it was a feeling of like sacrifice, like the woman sacrifices her life. So what I felt was sacrifice was the message I was feeling. Sacrifice, sacrifice. So that was what I felt. That soapbox signified for me was the feeling of sacrifice, that I should sacrifice things always for others. So that was the message that I felt from that particular incident, the sacrifice. And that theme came up for me several times in my college career. So the second time it came up for me was when Swami was giving out robes. This time a full robe, And my classmates will remember this. I think it was 90 or 91, and please forgive me, I'm so sorry. I don't particularly remember that year. I'm sure one of them will remember. Swami gave full robes this time. And even on the day of the blouse pieces back in 1985, they were different colored pieces. So all different colors like golden, some were saffron, pink, colors that we haven't even seen Swami wear. But I got the saffron one that day, like standard terry cotton saffron, the everyday wear one. And then the same thing happened again when he was giving out full robes. Was there were so many robes in the pile, and as Swami was coming in the line, this was fast forward to 1990, I think, when he was giving out those full robes. Again, all different colors, and the suspense was killing us. Like, which color are you going to get? Because it was like you don't know which one. Like Swami's taking from the top and giving, and it's just too much to try and count down and see which color you're going to get. But I wanted the saffron one. I just wanted everyday Swami's wear. And that's what I got. Like when I looked down, Swami gave me the saffron robe, everyday wear. And even it had some ironing marks on the shoulders. I was absolutely overjoyed. Like there was a couple of stitches missing in the inside neckline. I mean, I just was so happy. But really, saffron again is about sacrifice, and that's something that I'm very, very conscious of. That Swami's actually expecting me to make sacrifices always, and I always try and keep that in my mind. The third and final college visit that I'm going to recount to you is just about the second year. So that time it was August, and again, forgive me with the dates, but I believe it was August time. We were expecting Swami for an impromptu visit. He was on his way to Bangalore. And some weeks before, Rajeshwari Patel Madam, who was our English lecturer, she called a few of us in the auditorium after the morning college. So 1990. Yes, thanks, Snigdha. Snigdha's got a good memory. I thought it was 1990. Thank you. So going back to this incident, so that Rajeshwari Patel, she called us, a few of us. She called the names. You stay behind. You stay behind. I was one of them, and she said, "I have a play, and we are going to rehearse it. So come after college, and we'll start rehearsing." And she gave us a script, and I was lucky to be one of the characters in that play. And I think some of you on this call were also in that play and will remember that well. So I'm just going to recount it from my perspective, and I'm sure that hopefully that will awaken some of the memories for you all as well. So it was called Mirdad, and it was about monks in a monastery. And we practiced it morning, noon, and night, morning, noon, and night, morning, noon, and night. And we were just totally absorbed in it. And we put our full hearts into that character, and every expression, everything had to be perfect. We did it again and again and again. And we were waiting to perform it in front of Swami. And to our great disappointment, that time we got a call to say that Swami said he's not going to actually come. And that's something that we, God love his uncertainty. We used to get used to those kind of things. So we got very disappointed, and then we got over the disappointment, and we just carried on, like you do. And then, October we had the Dasera, November we had Swami's birthday. There was always so much going on to take your mind off things. And actually, I forgot about it. I didn't ever believe we would ever get that chance. I thought it was just Swami's play. And so October was Dasera, November was Swami's birthday, December was Christmas. And January came, and it was sports meet. And just as we were approaching sports meet one day, Rajeshwari Patel called us again. So this was 5 months later. And she said, Swami is going to come, I think this time, and we want to get this play ready. So the excitement was too much, because the thought of going back into that world of Mirdad again. I mean, it was like a world, it was like a bubble. It was a bubble, and I was waiting to dive back into that bubble. And of course, the opportunity came to do that. So in a flurry of excitement, I mean, the previous time we had almost prepared it to perfection. So it really didn't take much to sort of brush up on everything. And we prepared it. We got the costumes. We did a costume rehearsal, a dress rehearsal the night before. And lo and behold, he really did come on that January. And we performed it on the stage. We had a wonderful time with him. And he came up on the stage and he was so happy. And, I think you've all seen that many times where he gives namaskar. This time I took the namaskar properly and we stood and took photos. And Swami was really, really happy. Like he was so happy with the drama. And he was saying, as he had said in previous years, in fact, that, come to Prashant and William and perform. So I'm going to call you. At the previous year, he had said the same thing about a previous drama, which I hadn't been in. So I was hearing this for the second time, and I was just trying to sort of steady myself, like manage my expectations, like, okay, like, it's okay, Swami, I'm happy. Like, if we come, I couldn't see that happening. Like, we'd never been called to Prashant and William like that. So how could it happen? So anyway, Swami's very happy and we were happy, and then that all finished. And then exams started. So February month came and it was exams. We were studying. And lo and behold, on that, I think we'd already written one or two papers, and then we all got called into the principal's office, a few of us in that drama. And to cut a long story short, the VC had called to say Swami is calling the drama girls to Parthi to perform. And we were in the middle of exams. We just couldn't believe it. And we were just like, sometimes, these memories, I can honestly tell you that the days that followed are the best days that I've ever had in my life. In my life, I have not experienced the joy that I experienced for that specific trip, because it was complete and utter heaven. It was like a dream. It was like a dream, It was like honey on the tongue. It was so sweet. Every single second of it was so sweet. There was not a single thing I can remember that was not beautiful in that moment. So what happened was we loaded up, we practiced, we were excited, we loaded up the bus, we put all the things on top, I can remember strapping it all up, tying all the props on top of the bus. And while the rest of the hostel were studying, we actually just loaded the bus. We got in the bus and with our overnight bags, and we were on our way to Parthi. I mean, it was a dream. It really was. And we sang bhajans all the way. We arrived early afternoon. As we came, I think we went to the college auditorium straight away, if I remember, and we went straight to rehearsal, and we were there till quite late in the boys' auditorium, like practicing. And then we came late. When we came, the ladies in the canteen had kept food for us. Like, it was like we were just being treated like VIPs. It was a very, very strange feeling. And then the next morning we came for darshan. And as we came for darshan, Swami came out and he was like, go to the auditorium. Go and practice. Like, I'm coming there. So imagine how exciting that was. So quickly went to the auditorium and we were rehearsing. And then Swami came from the back of the auditorium. He was walking down through the middle with some guys in white, his VC and some other VIPs. He came to the bottom. He stood in the pit and he spoke to us, and he was looking and saying, all of you, good. And then all of a sudden, we were lined up like this, and I was on this end, and there was a long line of us covering the stage. And then randomly, he started at the other end and he said, where are you from? So he started this thing, each girl, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from? And, my anxiety levels were through the roof because I was on this end, thinking, oh no, now I have to say London. How am I going to say? I was very self-conscious about everything. My voice was always too soft. No one could ever hear me. Like, what? Can you speak up? Can you speak up? So I was like going through all this anxiety on the other end, thinking it's like, getting closer and closer to me. And finally, Swami asked the girl next to me, where are you from? And it was, I think, a girl called Archana Mom who was playing Ramadan, I think. So that was, no, Ramazan. I can't remember. But anyway, the main character. So she said New Delhi. And I thought to myself, oh no, now I'm going to have to speak. And Swami looked at me and he said like that. And I said, Swami, London. And he said, ah? And he turned his ear towards me. He said, ah? And I said, Swami, London. And he did again, ah? And then he kind of turned, and the principal madam was like rushing towards him, saying, Swami. And he turned to her like as if, what's going on? And then she said, Swami, she's from London, Swami. She's a British passport holder. And then he looked so thrilled, It was honestly etched in my memory for eternity. Imagine Swami being thrilled. I mean, so anyway, Swami looked thrilled. He was like, Londoner. And he was so cute. And then he turned to the people behind, London, London, like that, as if like, look, look, look who's come. It was so beautiful. And that was something else. And then the next day, night, we performed the drama. So I remember Swami came in the darshan again, and then he said, London se aaya, good expression, good girl. Like he just said it to me. I was sitting in the second line, and as he was walking away, so that was another thing for me. It was a first. And then on the night of the drama, about to perform, Swami was like, came backstage to give us namaskar. And I still remember, sisters, my goodness, how beautiful he is. I mean, his hair was so huge, and you could literally cut the atmosphere with a knife. It was like electricity, was what I felt, electricity in the air. Swami was telling us something about turning a key. You turn a key this way, you unlock the heart. You turn a key this way, you lock it. I can't remember. All I remember was my senses, my senses. It wasn't my intellect that was working, it was my senses. And Swami gave us Pad Namaskar, and then he was looking, smiling from ear to ear. Then we performed the drama. He was happy. He gave us saris. And then, of course, the day that followed, a lot happened. He took those saris back. So he took them back again. He wanted to collect them. Then he gave us another. That's not nice. Take this one. This is nice. And then he gave us another sari. So he collected those back and then took another. So we just draws excuses to just have another namaskar from him. It was really too beautiful. And he was praising us so much and saying, boys are all art, girls from the heart. And, he was really praising us a lot. It was a blissful time. The final section, and I know we've only got about 10-15 minutes left. So, it's about final year interviews, because there were some memories there that I just want to share with you before we close. So I had 2 final year interviews. Now, again, sisters, you will maybe remember details better than me, so forgive me, but 20 minutes. Okay, lovely. So, so the final year interview, the first thing I remember is I've already talked about Swami's visits to the hostel and how we used to wait for the prize giving. So there was one prize giving. I think it was final year. It was final year by this time. So it was January, and girls were getting into like competition mode. Any competition that moves, they're in. Girls are running, jumping. It was very sweet. Anything you can try. Some girls were like participating in like 4 or 5 competitions, because you don't know what you're going to win. So I was a little bit lost, actually, because apart from that one time, that fluke, I call it a fluke, that basketball, that going up, being elected to go and get the prize, although the prize itself was very, very gratefully received, but me going up and getting it, that was a complete contriving of Swami, I think, to give me something. But the real area that I feel I could possibly win was writing. And of course, the essay writing, as I described, was a no-go area for me up to that point. So one day I was having a monumental moan with my classmate Bharti, and I was saying, she was very sporty, and she was she was arranging, all the prizes and everything, and she was like a team. I think it was Thelma team. She was like the captain and everything. And she was like, why don't you enter? And I said, no, I won't win anything in the sports. I said, but the only thing possibly I could win is essay writing, but I don't stand a chance because I haven't got the knowledge of India. I just can't compete on that spontaneously. They were all unseen topics. So she said, oh, never mind. And I said, I'm just going to miss the chance to get a prize from Swami, another prize. So that was that conversation. That very day we went to class. And when we went to the English class, Rajeshwari Patel, that was our major, she was saying, now you girls, there was about 6 of us, 7 of us major. She said, now you girls, this year, I want you all to enter the essay writing competition. So I had a chance to say, madam, no chance. I won't be able to cope with it because the topics are always beyond me. So she said, no. She said, you don't know. This year, I'm going to make it creative writing. So it's going to be spontaneous, called creative writing topic. So this year, you really can enter. There's no excuse for you. So I want you all to enter. So we were like, okay, fine. So the plan was it was on a Sunday, the competition, and we were all in the hostel on the Sunday. And it was the essay was writing competition was due to be at 9:30, and then oratory was at 10:30, and they were like staggered all through the day. So 9:30 we were due to go, and then on the Saturday night there was an announcement in the prayer hall to say something like, "Oh, but Ramayana, or was it Mahabharata? There was that drama that used to run in the hostel." And the girls, it was really like a huge favorite, and a lot of things used to revolve around that. So basically, the girls were like, "This essay writing is going to move to 10:30, girls, because of the TV and all that." So I thought, okay, 10:30. So at 10:30, at 10:15, myself and my classmate Lakshmi, we walked up um, to the college where the essay competition was being conducted. And as we approached, it was on the ground floor. As we approached, we saw all the slippers were like lined up outside, and basically girls were coming out, finishing, and walking off. So we caught one of them. We said, "What happened? Like, what time did they? Oh, it started at 9:30. So by now it was like 10:25." So I was like, "Oh no!" But we got told it was nine. We got told it started at 10:30. They said, "No, no, no, it started at." So we were like, "Oh no!" So I just said, "Oh, we better just wait and tell her, because she's not going to be happy that she told us to come and we haven't. We've missed it." So we waited until all the girls had come out, and then Rajeshwari Patel came out in a hurry with all her papers, and she was moving on to her next competition, which was in another room. She spotted us. She said, "You girls, I told you, where were you?" So we said, "Madam, we got told it was 10:30, madam. It was announced in the hostel yesterday." So she was like, "Oh God, what these girls?" And then she said, "Okay, you two come with me. You're gonna write. I'm going to my next competition now. It's oratory competition. You two, I'm gonna give you the same time, same topics. You sit at the back of the class and you write." So we were like, "Okay, madam." So we just followed her. She went into this empty classroom, and the girls who were coming in for the oration competition, they were coming in. She gave us the topics, and basically we just sat on the floor at the back of the classroom, and we were just writing. And as she promised, the topics really were like easy, like they were like creative writing. Like mine was, "It was a beautiful summer's day," I think, and then you continue. I mean, what could be easier? And then there were some other sort of fictional topics as well. So I sat and wrote in my corner, and Lakshmi wrote hers, and then we handed our papers in, and we went back to the hostel and forgot about it. And then a few days later, the results were announced, and the Bharti, the girl I'd been moaning to, she came running. She said, "Sutopa, you got first prize in the essay writing." And I was really like, so I said, "Oh my God." The first thing I could think of was like, "Oh my God, like, I'm going to go up to get something from Swami." Like, I felt as if, and she was like, "See, he heard you, he heard you." So I was like, oh, like the way it happened, first the topic changing, then I got late, then she still allowed us, then I won. It was like, it really looked to me as if Swami was building me up for something, I was like getting all excited. And then, of course, he didn't come. So then the trip got cancelled. So Swami's visit didn't, so he didn't come to the hostel that year. That was finally January. He didn't come. And we all got so disappointed. And I was so like, why did Swami like build me up for that? And then it didn't happen, etc., etc. So that was yet again a bit like my dad, got so excited. But then, because so much is going on, we started our final year exams, everything got forgotten. And then we fast forward to March when we were going for our final year interview. And essentially, we were in the Darshan line. The few of us, our final years, had gone to pray to Swami to give us an interview. And Swami came, and then he said, "I'll call you." And then as we were called to the back of the veranda, on the ladies' side where we like queue up to go in the mandir, we were all cramped and sitting there. And one of the girls was coming along and saying, "Those girls who got prizes, get ready." Those girls, and I could not believe in my wildest dreams that that chance could appear again, but it did. So essentially what had happened is our lovely sisters and our lovely teacher had brought along those certificates for the final years, that Swami, if he gives us an opportunity, sorry, it's raining outside, sorry about the noise, that if he gives us an opportunity, that we could get it from him. So we went into the mandir, and as usual, I was always at the back because I could never get into the front line. I was right at the back, but the interview went on, and the point came where Swami was handing out the certificate. So they were calling the names, and then Swami would give the certificate. And again, I had another problem because I was right at the back, and I thought, oh my God, like I have got such a journey to make. There was literally like about 10, 12 rows of girls all jam packed together. And I would have taken half an hour to reach Swami. I was so stressed out. How am I going to get to him quickly? And of all the people to keep waiting, Swami, you don't want to keep Swami waiting. So I was getting anxious, but anyway, it had to happen. So my name got called, and I climbed, and then I was so, and my legs were like jelly. I was like, oh, no, and I couldn't look up. And finally, when I reached the front, Swami had been kept waiting so long. I mean, I feel it was an eternity. Probably it was about 5 seconds longer than it should have been. But in that time, he was like busying himself. He was like reading my certificate. He was just reading it like that. So when I got there, I was like, I'm ready, Swami. He didn't look up. He just kept me waiting. And I was like waiting. And then he was busy reading it. And all it had on there was like first prize essay writing goes to Sutopa Sen. Like, so he was staring at the certificate for about 2 or 3 seconds. And then finally he looked up, and I was looking at him like this. And then he said, Sen. He said my name really loudly, my surname. First time he said my name. And I said, yes, Swami. And then he said, Calcutta. And of course, I was about to think, like, do I correct Swami? No. Like, I said, yes, Swami. I'd learned I'd learned the lesson, like, keep it simple. Obviously, there's a meaning why Swami's saying Calcutta. My parents are very much, they're very much from Calcutta. So that was very truthful. If there's one city that we could say we originate from, it's very much Calcutta. So that was a beautiful chance of how Swami kind of like, the anticipation and everything else. So that was a beautiful thing, how the visit to the hostel didn't happen, but eventually in the final year interview, that did happen. And another two things very quickly on final year interviews that I do recall. There will be many, many things that I'm missing out, and I'm sorry. But the other thing that's happened to me during a final year interview was that I used to wear a lot of rings on my fingers, It was just something like my mother also I used to like rings, and then my mother also used to keep buying like this astrology stone, that stone, and this period and that period. Like we're heavily into astrology. My brothers also do astrology. So it's just a family thing. So I did have always rings on my fingers. And when I was folding my hands one time, I think it was in my MA, and Swami came in front of me in Telugu, he said, I heard the words rings and 10 fingers. I heard, but I didn't understand Petko. I didn't understand the Telugu. But afterwards, a girl translated it for me and said, Swami looked at you and said, she has worn rings on all 10 fingers. So you could take it like anything from Swami. I'm taking it. It was so beautiful. I was so happy. He looked at me, spoke to me, but I was amused, like, what's the meaning behind it, And actually, of course, the real thing was that those things were put on to better my life, like to help me. And Swami was essentially saying he is the one, like, holding everything. Strangely enough, after that, like, they started slipping off, like in the shower, this, that. They'd fly off, they became loose, and I also removed them all. So I felt like Swami just removed the need for me to, like, rely on astrology, quite frankly. He holds our fate in his hands. That was for me the inner significance of that incident. And two other things I'll just share with you before I move on. And those are that in the final year interview, I remember two things Swami said in English to us. So the first thing that has stayed with me throughout my life is Swami saying that whatever happens in your life, say to yourself, he said it like this, say to yourself, this is for my own good. This is for my own good. And he said it twice in English. That's where I remember it. This is for my own good. This is for my own good. And honestly, like all the things that I've been through in my life, like sometimes it's really painful. And then I just remember Swami's words, like, this is for my own good. This is for my own good. It really does take the pain out of life. Like Swami's just, what can I say? Like, to give us that advice, nothing could have been more important. And the second piece of advice that he gave in English that I remember very clearly is about making parents happy. So Swami says, and many of you, most of you, in fact, all of you almost will be parents now, so you can really appreciate this. But Swami very clearly said, make your parents happy, make your parents happy. And I think he was talking to a lot of my classmates who were going to get married, so he was trying to say to them, go with it, like make your parents happy. You don't even have to make Swami happy, but you should make your parents happy. If your parents are happy, Swami is happy. That's what he said. So, I always remember this because in my own life, as I have recounted to you, I am completely indebted to my parents for being firm with me at that young age and almost like dragging me slightly by the scruff of the neck and dragging me to India and putting me there. But the rest followed. Like that was absolutely the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I have my dear late father to thank and my divine mother, my own mother, to thank for that. So those were the two things from my final year interviews that I wanted to share with you. And I think I have about 5 minutes or so left, 5 minutes or so. So I'll just tell you what happened. So as an ex-student, the final chapter is ex-student. So many of us, I think we will agree that our best experiences have happened physically with Swami after leaving the college. So I can say that when so a few years I didn't come to Swami after leaving the college because I really had a lot of adjusting to do. I think you can understand, going back after 7 years in England, I was really out of sync. So I left England as a schoolgirl and I returned as a fully grown adult. But that was about it. I knew nothing about England at all. So I really had to kind of like get myself acclimatized, get a job, get established. And I felt very much that I had to sort of do that because I didn't want anyone to point a finger and say, look at her. So there were people that were doubting my mother's decision to put me in Anantapur. Many Sai devotees in England, they would say, oh, why are you doing that? You're spoiling her education, putting her in India. She could have the best education here. And I really didn't want that to be the case. So I was determined I'm going to make myself equal to anyone here, so no one is going to say, look, like, she made a mistake. So 3 years I didn't come to Puttaparthi actually. And then my younger brother had a dream that Swami, he said, ask your sister to come and see me. That's what he said. I came for my graduation. Sorry, I should say that. I came for my graduation. Then after that November, I didn't come for 3 years. But finally, I came in 95 and I used to come. I had a pattern of coming in December to do the security duty. And those of you that have done security duty will know, oh my God, what heaven. Like, just so grateful. I mean, you've heard my stories. I'm not nimble and light on my feet or anything like that. But somehow I managed to do that duty when I was given the opportunity to do it. And Swami allowed me to sit with that scarf on, and I had lovely, lovely times. So I was there for December in 95. And during that trip, a sister, I think her name is Shompa Didi, she was doing security duty with me. And she said, Sutopa, like I had a dream last night that you were speaking on Christmas Day. This is December 19th. You were speaking on Christmas Day and you were speaking in the Purnachandra auditorium. Swami was in the chair and I was in the audience. So that's what I had the dream. But I looked at her, but this was around the 18th of December. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't know what to say. I said, that's lovely. Like, I didn't know what it meant because obviously they'd already chosen the speaker for that year. And I was just like, okay. But the following year in 96, when I came, again, I just had my routine of coming in beginning of December. Second, I think I arrived in Puttaparthi to do security duty. And I think it was the 5th of December, after darshan one morning, Sai Leela madam came up to me. She said, Sutopa, when are you here till? And I said, madam, I'm here till 29th. And she said, okay, you're here for Christmas, no? And I said, yes, madam, I'll be here for Christmas. She said, okay, can you speak on Christmas Day? And she just said it, she just trotted it out like that, like it was just some small thing. I said, yes, madam, I can speak. So she said, okay, fine. Prepare something, huh? Your experiences, 5 minutes, keep it short. Okay, prepare something. Will you do that? I said, yes, madam, I'll do that. So you can imagine the rest of it was a haze. Like for the next 15 days, I was just in a dream trying to recollect things and write them down. And my classmate Kalevani gave me a tip. She said, make it short. If it's 5 minutes, make it 4. Everyone would be happy with you. So you took that advice to heart, keep it really short. I use that advice even to this day, actually, even in when I'm giving talks, like with sorry about today. I'm like, I think I've already gone over time, but I'm indulging myself today. But when I'm at work, I always try and keep it brief. But anyway, on that day, so basically at the last minute, everything changed. The arrangements changed. Suddenly, we weren't in the Purnachandra auditorium. We were in the mandir, and all arrangements changed. We didn't have any rehearsal. They were making us run. They meaning, they were all instructions. Can you come here by this time? Can you go there by that time? Can you come here by this time? We were running, and there was no mobile phone in those days. So I can just remember Christmas Eve was the most miserable. It was the most miserable day in the sense I was so nervous and I was running around in the hot, like not knowing what to do, what not to do. And I was getting so stressed out. And people were telling, don't speak this, speak that. No, no, not that, this, no, no. And it was, Swami was literally playing with me until I got to that point on Christmas morning where I said to him, Swami, I don't know what's happening. I can't take anymore. I'm going to go up there and whatever comes out of my mouth, that's up to you. Even if I have to fall flat on the stage, this is how far I went with me. I told Swami categorically in my mind, really clearly, I said, Swami, even if I have to trip on those wires and fall flat on my face on the stage, I don't mind. It's just up to you. You do the rest. I couldn't take any more. So that was my prayer to him. Surrender complete, like whatever, Swami, it's your wish now. I can't do any more. And then I came to the auditorium in the afternoon and I sat in the front row and we were all sitting like just enough room to hug our knees and we were sitting like that for 3 hours and someone just gave me a rose from the side and said, give to Swami. And I was like, oh my God. And then in my mind, I was thinking, okay, give rose to Swami. Go up. I'm a person. I have to just get my actions. Otherwise, I would be flustering what to do with Swami. So I thought, go to Swami, give the rose, kneel down, take namaskar, stand up, turn to Rostam, speak. I had to go through all of those. I was so nervous. Anyway, sat there numbly, and then my name was called, and literally the stage was right there because in Kulvan Hall, it's like we're literally on top of it. So I finally, when I went to Swami, just so you'll be interested to hear that, Swami took the rose and then he put his hand, like you'll know this, he puts his hand on the edge of the table. I went under the table, and when I went under the table, sisters, you may have seen this, Swami's feet, they're so beautifully, beautifully positioned on that cushion. Oh my God, they're like ready for a photograph. Swami's feet were like just ready for a photograph. So beautifully placed with the flowers, so soft. I just touched like that and I came out. Swami's hand was there. I stood up. I looked at him and he looked at me and then I just stood. And I was inches like, there was no room. Everything was so cramped. So I literally just stood like this and spoke. And I spoke about how I'd promised to establish myself, that very thing, that I told you, that I didn't come. And then my brother had a dream and then I came. Anyway, I told a few other things. 5 minutes, I spoke for 4.5 minutes. And when I finished, the last thing I said is that, just to keep me with Swami, though I may have miles and miles to go before I sleep, I pray that Swami is with us every step of the way. That's how I still feel. And that was my ending line. And it was obviously the words from a beautiful poem by Robbie Burns. So, Robert Burns, sorry. Robbie is the Scottish pronunciation, Robert Burns. So then finally I turned to Swami and when I looked at him and I finished, I turned to him and he said to me, very nice. So that was what he said to me in English. And then I said, thank you, Swami. And then I walked. I was just in a daze. I was numb. My mouth was dry. I just went and sat down. And what I can tell you, sisters, honestly, is like, if you surrender to him, I know what he was praising. I understand. It wasn't what I said. It was that surrender. That's what he was happy with. And every time we've done things for Swami, it's that which he's happy with. It's that feeling of surrender. Swami, it's just yours. He wants maximum effort, and that's it. The rest is outcome is up to him. So I'm not sure about time because it looks like it's 9:15 for you. I think my time is possibly.
Yeah. You want to take 5 more minutes?
You want? I can talk, but I'm conscious that. Okay, shall I say one last thing to finish?
Yeah. Yes. Wonderful. That's great.
One last thing to finish, sisters, and I'm sorry that I'm keeping you, but So the last thing I will tell you, which was also very, very sweet, it was about Spotion, Swami Spotion. So I joined a group from UK called Sai Mahima, which some of you may know as security girls. You would know that, Karuna, auntie, she was a she was a very prominent devotee in UK. Was taking Balbika's children, coming every year for a number of years in the 90s with these batches of, they called it Sai Mahima, and I was invited to join Sai Mahima 5. So my job was very much looking after the children in the darshan line. So it was a complete service, like, really role. Not darshan, of course, always darshan, you get it from far. But I wasn't really going for the rehearsals. I wasn't in the drama. All I was doing was looking after girls who were about 10 years old. That was my total job on that trip. And I was literally looking after them all the time, early morning, late at night. And it was fine because I was staying on after Mahima went and I was going to do security duty. And that was the time when Swami gave me a lovely time. So I think he taught me in that trip that actually when you're serving, you serve. Don't try and serve and take together. That doesn't work. He gets very cross. Serve, serve. When I'm going to give you reward, I'll give you reward. It's separate. I'll give you your reward when you're due to get it. Don't try and keep grabbing things from me when you're in a service role. That's not how it works. He taught me that many times. Anyway, in this particular instance, I looked after these girls, and on the final day, Swami called this group for interview because they are the lady who led the group very close to Swami. So we came in the afternoon. In the morning, we were told Swami's calling us all in the afternoon. I had been quite sick. I had the flu. And still, I said in the room, I have to wash my hair. I can tell you, sisters, this, I had to wash my hair. I was like, no, Swami's interview, I have to wash my hair. So there was no hot water. I had flu and everything. And girls were like, why are you washing your hair? I said, no, you don't understand. I can't go into the interview room unless I wash my hair. So I got buckets of hot water and I washed my hair and dried it in the sun. And, dried it somehow, combed it, and went for it. We all dressed properly, presentably, and we went for the darshan and we went for the interview. When we got in the interview in the mandir, I was group 2. So the leader for group 1 was right at the front in the corner, like the aisle seat. And of course, I was the leader for group 2. So I was right behind her in the aisle seat. So I had lovely space and I had lovely darshan. But the best bit, the best bit, and this is what I'll leave you with, is like suddenly halfway through the interview, Swami stands in the aisle and then he takes his hand on the lady side and the men's side for the group leaders and starts to touch their heads. So he did that for the group one, men's side, ladies side. And of course, I'm group 2. And I was just in heaven. So then he moves forward an inch and he does it to the group 2 and he touched my head. And all I was thinking is, Swami, thank God I washed my hair. So, I could get this, I think he knew, he must have known. But oh my God, I would have been mortified. So he touched my head, not only touched it, he touched it and then he rubbed it like this before lifting it off and moving on. So anyway, I'll leave you with that thought because it was the best thought, a feeling of my life. And it just goes to show you that whatever efforts you have for towards Swami, he receives them. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening to me and bearing with me. And lovely messages.
Wow.
I need to put my chat on so I could actually see the messages. But
Wow.
so
Blissful. Words can't do justice to what we all are feeling right now. Thank you so much, ma'am. You literally took us down the memory lane. It was indeed blissful. Thank you so much. And we would definitely have you some other time also because time was literally, uh,
no,
it's like for hours we could hear you, but it's constraint of time. But we would be really very happy to have you with us some other time as well. Thank you.
sure.
Thank you so much, sister.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you.
having me.
We'll
Right.
conclude this session with Samasloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti 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 Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की
Jai